Pickle, let's go to the Ballology hotline and go to Central Texas to 254 to talk with the new head coach of the Temple Wildcats, getting ready for his first game as head coach. We're pleased to be joined by Coach Chad President. Coach, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. Like I tell everybody, I'm literally living the dream. I can't complain about anything. How are you?
I'm doing great, Coach, and we can start there, certainly. This is you get an opportunity to come home, to coach your hometown team, to coach your alma mater, a place where you were such a star there as a quarterback. And I am curious for you what waking up this morning, knowing it's game week, knowing that you're going to be leading your Temple Wildcats onto the field on Friday night, what this morning has been like for you?
It's just been, busy a little bit, trying to make sure you get everything ready for Friday, minus the X's and O's. We want to make sure the roster is right, every name is spelled right, for our media guide, just behind the scenes stuff that you want to make sure is up and running so you don't have to worry about it at the last second. But everything else has been good. Just everybody keeps asking, you ready for Friday? But it's like I tell them I'm ready for Monday. You know what I mean? Just trying to take it one day at a time.
This is obviously a program you're very familiar with, and I am curious for you because you get promoted to take over this program. I am curious for you what challenges you've noticed taking over the big chair. We hear that from coaches all the time, that there's a big difference between the assistant coach and the head coach. From your perspective, what have you noticed about the transition in jobs?
I think just, everything is on your plate. Everything's coming your way, questions, concerns, frustrations, excitement. So just trying to balance and make sure you deal with all that correctly. And then, at the end of the day, make sure your staff is prepared with everything that they need, from equipment to computers to Wi-Fi, for workouts, practice, schedules, so they can plan their trips with their families or off days with their families and stuff like that. So just trying to make sure you're organized, make sure you're ahead of the game, and, trying to be, proactive and not reactive.
Talking with Chad President, head coach of the Temple Wildcats, on the Ballology hotline here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, #TF Today. Coach, you are a guy who knows this program inside and out, perhaps uniquely suited to answer this question. For folks who have not been or maybe unfamiliar with Temple Wildcat football, can you put into words what is it about this program and what is it about that place that makes it special?
It's like the traditions and history, being one of the winningest football programs in the state, the blue front, white back pants, being right off of I-35, if you're ever going northbound or southbound, you can see our stadium. I think just the history and traditions that has gone on, and then, just making playoff runs and going to state championships, that's what kind of makes it great. But the thing that makes it run are the kids. You get kids from north side, south side, west side, and east side of Temple that, come from different backgrounds, and they come here and, they want to play some football and try to leave their mark on the football program. And, like I said, all kids from different backgrounds just coming together, having fun, and, trying to get victories at the end of the day.
I do want to ask you about the guy you hired to replace you. Because aside from having a new head coach, obviously Temple needed a new offensive coordinator. Garrett Campfield, the new offensive coordinator there. What was it about Coach Campfield that made him the right fit for this job there with the Wildcats?
We've been together since I started out at Rockwall Heath. Ironically, first day on the job, there's an open desk, and the open desk is right next to his desk. And, the first day I met him, we kind of just clicked, and, we are best friends now. He knows his offense, inside and out, just like I do. And so, that's what kind of made that transition easy, and finding somebody, to replace me. And he's done a great job in his new role. Here we're fortunate enough that our coordinators are out of the classroom. So that means, a lot of stuff that I don't want to deal with. Sometimes he has to deal with it. And so, it's just been a good transition for him and his family. And, he's going to do a great job for us here.
This is a team that has high expectations. 12 starters coming back. One of those guys is your quarterback, Champ Mayo, and you, of course, a former Temple quarterback. You know the position well. You know what it takes to be a Temple quarterback. I'm curious from your perspective, when you take a look at Champ Mayo, you're the guy who sees him every day in practice. What is it about him that makes him special? What is it that for you makes him likely to be the next great Temple quarterback?
I just every day wanting to be better and fix his mistakes from the day before. I mean, he's a knowledgeable kid. He's, now that he's my student aide, he has all these off periods as a senior. So one of his classes, he's my student aide. So now we get to spend more time just watching some film and, just talking about life and, understanding the pressure that comes with playing this position. No matter where you are, you can be in Temple, you can be in Dallas, Houston, wherever the case may be. But everything, when it's all good, you'll get the praise, and everything's bad, they'll talk about you. So we just been focusing on trying to stay even keeled, and he's done a really good job, this off season and in the summer and, the 2 weeks of fall camp of just leading us vocally. His actions speak for themselves, but, his voice has to carry weight through our team.
The other guy that I know on your roster that everybody's going to be clamoring about is your Baylor committed, the defensive end, Jamarian Carlton. The tape is really remarkable. With Jamarian and then the defense as a whole, what has you excited about him entering his senior year and also the defensive unit as a whole?
The main thing for him is he's taking that next step. Just been taking care of his body. He's added some weight, but hasn't lost a step in his explosiveness or his speed or his power. And so very fired up for him. And then our defense is, we go by the swarm and compete. That's kind of our identity. And so that's what they do. They swarm, and when they get to the football, they're trying to compete for it, whether that's knocking it out or securing the tackle. And, just very impressive, some young guys that have stepped up and, some guys that are coming back, leading those younger guys. And, just all the way around good defense right now, and just very proud of they played in the scrimmage and how they've been playing, since fall camp and in spring ball. The improvement on the defensive side has been tremendous.
I want to ask you, talking with Chat President, head coach of the Temple Wildcats on the Bology Hotline on Texas Football Today. Coach, I want to ask you a little bit about your district, District 12-6A. You obviously know it well. It's a Central Texas who's who. Teams like Harker Heights, like Midway, Shoemaker, Bryan, Coppers Cove, Killeen. You're a guy who knows this district probably better than anybody. From your perspective, when you take a look at District 12-6A, I'm curious what you see.
One thing I see is a lot of great head coaches. Coach Gillespie up at Midway, he was actually my coach at the University of Tulsa. He's done a great job since he's gotten there. And then, look across the board, for the most part, all these head coaches have either been at their school for a while or been other places, did a good job, and now they're at our schools in our district. And so, much respect from the coaching standpoint. And then, just kid-wise, we get to see these kids at track meets, basketball games. A lot of kids in Central Texas play multi-sports, and, a lot of them play football. So you get to kind of see these kids year round and see how they compete, on the track and field, basketball court, and, just very familiar with, our kids, their kids. And so it's almost like every game's like a rivalry game in our district because, we see them, year round. And so it's just a really talented district. I don't think there's any team we can take lightly. It's kind of wide open in our district right now. I know Harker Heights is the front runner because they won district last year, but, I think it's pretty wide open right now. So, anything can happen in this district on a Friday night.
And finally, Coach, I do want to ask you about your opponent on Friday night. You guys will open the season coming up this Friday night there at Wildcat Stadium, taking on Nuevo Leon, Mexico, a program down there. And I know Temple has had a history of playing teams from south of the border. I know that there's a unique challenge there as far as taking on this program. How do you prepare your guys to go up against what is going to be a very different experience, not only just in week one of the season, but also playing a team that is so unique from south of the border?
I think, playing them last year, you could see that they were a very physical team, and they play hard, from start to finish, no matter what the score is, no matter if you're up by a lot or if it's a close game, they play hard. So I think for us is, fixing the corrections we need to make from the scrimmage against Hutto, and then, just coming out, feeling the energy from the home crowd and, protecting our turf. That's what we're going to talk about this week is protect home. And, that's one of our goals this season is to go undefeated at home. But the team we're playing, like I said, they play hard, they play physical. They're very good on special teams. They give you different looks. And they're coached well as well. They got a good quarterback that can sling it a little bit. Defensively, they got some stout guys up front. So, it's going to be a physical game, and we just got to come out, start fast, and finish strong.
Last thing, I just have to make sure I ask you this. This is, you, of course, back in 2014, led Temple to the state championship game, more than 3,000 yards. You are also only 28 years old. My question for you, are you the scout team quarterback?
Yes, I am. Started doing that last year. Did it 1 year just to kind of get the tempo going. And Coach Rocco calls it the President Bowl on Wednesday. So on Wednesdays, I go out there and I'm a scout quarterback. But Monday through Tuesday, I'm kind of gearing up for that day. I mean, my knees are trying to hold me up a little bit. So, but yes, on Wednesdays, I'm a scout team quarterback.
Okay. Now, have any of your defensive backs picked you off?
I think I had one last year. It was a little windy, you know what I mean? But I try not to make any excuses. But and they like to talk a little mess and say, "Oh, you don't got it no more" and stuff like that. But this year I got a surprise for him. I'm gonna wear my cleats out here on Wednesday and get after it a little bit.
Chad President, he's the head coach of the Temple Wildcats. Coach, we appreciate your time. Congratulations again on the new job, and excited to see your boys on Friday night.
Appreciate y'all and everything that y'all do. Y'all take care.
All right, thanks a lot, Coach. There he goes, Chad President, head coach of the Temple Wildcats in the Apology Hotline.